Welcome to Smart Branding, a podcast dedicated to branding, naming, and domain names. I'm Tatiana Bonneau, and with my guests, we try to help you create and grow strong, memorable, and meaningful brands online. I believe time is one of our most precious assets, and so I want to thank you in advance if you decide to spend the next 30 minutes with us. I promise to do my best to make those worth it. Let's go. So, hello, and thank you for everyone for joining. Thank you to our guest today, Austine Esezobor. I just had that with Esezobor.
Yeah, you got it. That was
Esezobor, right. I got it.
Yeah.
Yay! So we're going to talk about names. Good start. He's an SEO consultant specializing in brand SERP optimization and the founder and host of the what's wrong with me today? Democratizing SEO Podcast. Yeah, if you want to listen to somebody talking correctly, go to his podcast. It's not me today. Oh dear. Yeah, let's get you talking. Thank you for making this time.
Thank you so much, Tatiana. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here with you.
Wonderful. Let's start with a bit of a background. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how did you get to do what you do today?
Okay, sure. So I am an SEO consultant. I've been an SEO professional now for 13 plus years, almost 15. And I've worked client side, agency side, and I've been a consultant for near 5 years now. I am now specializing in brand SERP optimization. And you may be wondering, what the hell is brand SERP optimization? It's essentially focusing on how a brand shows up on Google. Now, traditional SEO looks into where a brand shows up on Google, rankings, essentially, which are Google's recommendations. Brand SERP optimization looks into how one shows up on Google, and there are several techniques. If I were to give you a visual representation of brand SERP optimization, it is literally everything that you see on the SERPs, and SERPs are search engine result pages. Essentially, when you Google something, that is the SERPs, what you see on Google. Brand SERP optimization primarily looks into what's on the right-hand side. Ideally, or the key of that is the Google Knowledge Graph. Now, I say primarily, that is, I believe, the key to everything on the SERPs from a brand SERP optimization point of view. But I do consider everything on the SERPs itself. So essentially knowledge panels. If you were to look at it in terms of a visualization on a desktop, you have the left-hand rail, which are Google recommendations, and the right-hand rail, which are the facts about your brand as represented by Google's understanding. And the key to that optimization is to ensure that Google is correct, i.e. they have the facts correct. They often have it incorrect. So it is a brand's job, I believe, to ensure that Google has those facts as accurately as possible. Well, essentially, they have the facts rather than false facts.
I did have one guest that we covered that topic with, and it was really interesting because I think a lot of people feel about SEO like it's kind of like a black box, like some magic, and you don't know what's happening, and you just do some things and hope that it will work. So how much how much do you feel is a brand in control of what shows?
Oh, they absolutely are in control of it. They influence what Google shows. Right now, and I can guess the guest you had on, Jason Bernard. He is the godfather of brand SERP optimization. And I actually got in contact with him from another podcast. I had him on my podcast, and we spoke, and I just found what he was talking about fascinating. So I delved deeply into it. Essentially, you do have an influence on what Google shows. It's not just a case of where you rank. which are Google's recommendations. It's also how you rank. And this is where you can have an influence on Google. Now, most SEOs, I would say, would consider Wikipedia as the entry into optimizing one's brand SERP, especially the knowledge graph. But Wikipedia is not the ideal route to go via. And it's actually better that you do not go via Wikipedia. It's better that you optimize your brand SERP with your own website. Now, if you were to think about it from a digital presence point of view, a lot of brands focus on their presence, but on their website and also social media. They rarely focus on their brand presence on Google, because of the mistaken thinking, partly led by SEOs in the early days of SEO, that SEO is a black magic, dark art sort of thing. It's really not. I mean, it's a creative channel. It's a technical channel. Yes, absolutely. But I mean, this is something that anyone can grasp if they apply themselves to it.
And you did just mention that it's better if brands were to focus on effectively feeding Google the right information about themselves via their own website, if I understand correctly.
Absolutely.
So how, tell me a little bit more about that, and how can somebody like you help with that? And what do you feel are like the biggest mistake business owners make when it comes to that?
Okay, so the biggest mistake is the messaging is usually not succinct enough for Google. As Jason Bernard says, Google is at this stage still a child, right? And in order for them to know the facts, they have to be fed the facts, and they have to find the facts from you and have those facts corroborated from different entities, i.e. website, from an online point of view. So in terms of ensuring that you have your messaging correct, you really need to consider three things: who you are, who your brand is, I should say, what your brand does, and which audience that you're trying to attract. Now, I want to point out here that when you're attracting an audience via Google search, organic search, you're attracting Google's audience, users, searchers. So essentially, it's a subset of their users that you are attracting. That is your audience. So you need to have it succinct which subset of Google's users that you want to target. Now, once you know those three things, you want to provide Google this information on your website. And in providing this information, ideally, you want to have an entity home, what we call an entity home. This is essentially a page on your website that will be dedicated to feeding this information to Google about your brand. So you have the page on your website, your entity home. You have your description of what your brand is. Now, you want to provide this in as succinctly as possible. So think of it in terms of what we call semantic triples. So subject, verb, object. I'll give you an example. Austine Esezobor, subject, is verb, and SEO consultant, object. Having that in that specific manner is what is considered a succinct description for Google, and we SEOs call it a semantic triple. That is key to Google's understanding, because they need to find it ideally in a sentence as direct as that on your site and all over the web. And the third aspect is to have corroboration, which is this information that you've provided on your website, on your page, your entity home, found elsewhere on the web. So other websites having this information. You can think of this also as your properties, so your social media platform profiles, and other websites that you do not own and or control.
If you think of, like, I'm drawing parallels with, because I'm not an SEO expert, even though like everyone nowadays, you have to be online, you have to, as a personal brand or business, you inevitably end up, everything is online. So everybody has a little bit of an idea, but like drawing parallels to what I do, which is I deal with premium domain names. I oftentimes have people say, it doesn't matter. Like the domain name doesn't matter. I can just, pay Google so I appear on the top and that's it. I don't, it doesn't matter. So in your case, like what do you feel about that? Can people just say, I'm just not going to do SEO, just ignore that, I'm just going to throw money at it and I'm always going to be on top?
Well, in a sense, as long as you continue to pay, yes, you will be on top. However, SEO is a special channel. I like to say SEO, I'm slightly biased, I know, but in my opinion, it's the core channel to digital marketing. I say that to say it's the one channel, marketing channel, that functions outside of the marketing department. And as long as you have a website, SEO is a channel that you absolutely need. Whether you are active with your SEO or not, people are going to search for your brand, right? So even if you have, even if you're not turned off, even if you have SEO turned off, you're not active with your SEO, you will receive traffic via organic searches because people will search for you. If you're active with your PPC, you definitely will receive traffic via organic search because people will Google you after a number of weeks, months, having seen your ads. Everything starts from a search. That is the key aspect to, I would say, being online. And predominantly, we focus on Google, SEOs do. But Google is not the only player out there. They are the biggest one, which is why across most markets, which is why we focus on them. But a search happens across the web, whether you're on Google, Bing, hell, even TikTok. TikTok are getting into search now. Search and social media platforms, they share the same audience, the same users. So someone who's on TikTok would search for something either on the platform or go onto Google and carry out their search. Their research journey begins from a search. So whether you have SEO active or not, you will receive traffic via the organic search. And it's a worthwhile venture ensuring that your brand presence on Google, on search platforms, are the way that you want it to be represented.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think with Jason, we actually got to that, and it was a realization for me in terms of SEO, because I think I was on that side of thinking, it's just, stuff happening there. And then it was like a little light bulb. I was like, hold on a minute, like you just said, it's happening anyway. Like people are searching for you. That information is there. It's online. You have like those crawlers crawling and using that data. So whether you like it or not, it's happening. It's just if you are aware of it and if you put the work into it, it can happen better for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, definitely. It's once you have your SEO active, you can control the traffic you receive, the way the way, in a sense, people search and find you online via Google. And when you incorporate Brand SERP optimization, you're then looking into not just where you show up, which are the rankings, but how you show up, which goes into branding.
Absolutely. And another thing that I think people miss with domain names and with SEO as well is that the ultimate aim of all of it should be, because it's easy to say, I want to get clients, I want to be on top of Google, but at the bottom of it all, it's like you want your clients to find you, make their life easier. So it's all about them. So in that sense, if you look at SEO as a way to communicate with people and make their life easier and present them with the right information about you and make it easy for them to find you, I think if you look at it that way, and I would throw domain names into that as well, generally as an approach to marketing your business, if you look at it that way, I think very quickly all of those, I'm just going to throw money at it, ways of doing things doesn't make sense.
No,
because it just lacks respect, even if you think about it. If you think about your audience, I'm just going to stick my thing in front of them, like whatever they're looking for.
And this is assuming people click on your ad, right? There are research that's being carried out by big data companies showing that not everyone clicks on ad. I am an SEO, so my eyes naturally go into the organic results. But there are a lot of just general searchers who search for something, and instead of clicking on an ad, they would go into the organic listings. And or more importantly, these days, they would almost research the company, the brand name, the domain name on the SERPs itself before clicking on it. So if someone searches for the domain name, they will want to know as much about the domain, the brand, as quickly as possible. And this is where the knowledge graph is very important. Knowledge panels overall, but particularly the knowledge graph. That is a key sign that Google not only knows your business, understands it, but knows the audience that you are targeting. Because these days, we're seeing more and more displays of knowledge panels. And the reason I believe that Google is showing this over the traditional rankings, or in front of the traditional rankings, I should say, is because people want to start and end their search journey quickly. Speed is a key factor for Google, both in terms of how a website functions and how users are able to decipher information in a quick way. So the more facts Google knows about your brand, and the more confidence, that's the key right there, the more confidence they have in their understanding of your brand, the easier they can show your brands to their users, who are a subset of who are the audience that you want to target.
Yeah, and I think on the paid results, I'm definitely one of those people who like actively would avoid those, because in a way I'm like, okay, you paid for that, so I can trust whatever it is you're saying. I'm gonna go and look for what people are saying, or what has come up as a natural result, supposed to. I think we're over, and I'm like, consider myself old. I think young people are even more into that. Like we used to be, you feel or you trust something is good because you saw it on TV, or like you heard the brand on the radio. And now it's almost like the other way around. It's like, okay, so they can pay for that. Obviously, they're going to say good things about themselves. Like, what is the reality behind that?
Yeah. And users, I mentioned earlier, so search and social, they are the same users, right? A lot of people, when they search for something on social media, they almost expect the same sort of approach on Google. In other words, they expect the information that they see on Google is from Google, which is why it's, again, very important for Google to have the facts right. If they are going to present information on the SERPs about a brand, they need to ensure that, okay, they know the brand very, very well. The SERPs also change over time. I'll give you an example. Apple, every September, they have their Apple Live event, right? And you can literally track it hour by hour leading up to the event, and also after the event, how much the SERPs change. And this is Google's understanding that, okay, Apple has this event going on. People will be searching for, I don't know, the latest Apple iPhone. When they search for it, what do they want to see? This is what Google is trying to solve all the time, and they're doing it real time. So when you have events, you'll see like the Apple Live event, you'll see the SERPs change literally as we head into the event and after the event for a couple of, so usually it's several hours or two, a day or two. We see this also with movies and TV shows. This is a big area that's even more prominent than Apple live events, right? Whenever there's a movie coming out, the SERPs will change after the movie is released in the cinemas. Again, the SERPs will change. So the traditional rankings of where a brand ranks, I believe that is slowly, no, let me rephrase that, quickly being overseeded by Google's knowledge of the facts about the brand in order to serve their users. Because again, if we look into their Google's mission statement, they want to provide information universally as quickly as possible. For them to do this, it comes back to them knowing what the users want, which comes back to knowing what the brand has to offer for their users.
And we've touched on a few times now on consistency in that. So let's talk a bit about that. Like, and you just said, Apple, for example, like that event is fixed and it's repeating every year, or it's announced in advance. So how does consistency play into that? And does it also, because I'm going to bring things to domain names, obviously, but without talking about SEO, when we talk about domain names and how it creates confusion and traffic and email leaks when the domain doesn't match the brand name, there's been, like, I've seen information on both sides in terms of SEO saying it matters or it doesn't matter. So what are your thoughts on that? How has it, if it has changed over time? And also not just about domain names, I guess. Also, you mentioned the text, for example. It has to be, simple, consistent on a few places on the web, etc.
So if Google and users are confused about your branding, your position, it's going to be, I want to say difficult, but I think a better phrase is less easy for Google to provide your domain to users, because there is also a confidence issue in terms of, okay, how much can Google's users trust Google to provide them with the information that they are seeking? If users don't have confidence in Google, they're very much likely to head elsewhere to other search platforms. And in terms of domain names not matching, let's say email, for example, that's a big, quite a big issue, because again, it's a case of, do we have trust in this? Do we have confidence in this? If we don't, let's probably not show them as facts. Let's provide them as recommendations, right? Now, if you add in the elements of competition, which is forever on, right? If your competitors makes it easy for Google to trust and have confidence in their brand, and you do not, Google will highly favor them over you.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, that makes absolute sense. And I think, again, it's something that a lot of people try to sort of swipe with, I'm just going to pay for it. And I think it's a good thing to sort of highlight that, and keep highlighting that it's not, some magic. It's Google, as I guess any business, is serving a purpose. It has its vision for serving their customers, and that's the goal of it. That's you have to make it easier for those people searching to get what they're searching for, as you said, quickly and reliably.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we have these days, think of any of the biggest brand, Apple, Amazon. They actively work on their SEO. Like I said, if you have a website and you seek to acquire users to your website, SEO is a fundamental part of it. It's not just something you can leave to happenstance. It's something that brands, businesses, small, medium, large, they work on. if they have an online presence. And most businesses these days do have an online presence.
Absolutely. And you said you've been doing this for like coming up to 15 years. How do you feel SEO has changed? Like, what do you feel it's, I guess probably the biggest thing now is obviously artificial intelligence, which, biggest thing now in terms of conversation is it has been in the works for some time, I guess. But what are your thoughts on that? What's your experience in that?
So over the years, SEO has gotten more comprehensive, which to me has become more fun. It's I see SEO as an art and a science, and it's a creative as well as a technical discipline, which ignites all aspects of my brain. AI in search is definitely here to stay. It's something, AI overall is something that's influencing Google to make changes as quickly as they are making changes. This year alone, we've seen radical changes. And I think in the months to come, we're going to see the biggest change in search history. And that is not an exaggeration. I do think the changes that we will see will be revolutionary. It will be the new Google. And a lot of people will adapt to the new way of searching for information, which Google is aiming to serve their users to be able to start and end their search journey a lot quicker, significantly quicker. And this is where they're introducing AI into search. So they have several, I guess you could call them products: Google Bard, Google Perspectives, I should say. And the big one that we SEOs are all anticipating is SGE, Search Generative Experience. And this, I believe, will be what really changes the SERPs. And I believe when that lands, I think that will be the marking point of the new Google, the new way of searching. And this will be, I believe, what changes the SERPs from being recommended left-hand side panel to the facts about your brand right-hand panel being more dominant than the left-hand panel, i.e. the more facts Google knows about you, the better they'll be able to serve you, your brand, within SGE for users to start and end their search journey quickly.
Are you nervous? Like, do you feel at some point what you do could be like completely automated and there would be no need for like people managing?
I don't at all. I think it will become more elaborate, or become more comprehensive. But to me, that's just opportunity. I think that is where we're inevitably headed. I think it's a reality where SEO is known outside of the SEO profession, outside of marketing overall, and into the general public. I believe we're headed into a place where non-SEOs, the average user, knows and utilizes SEO the way they do social media. And I am all for it. I think that's going to be beautiful days, because it's going to take the stigma away from SEO. It's going to take the whole SEO is a dark art, black magic rhetoric. That is going to be thoughts of the past, right? And I think people will understand, utilize, and not fear SEO as they currently do and have done in the past. I think people will embrace SEO and respect it as a legit marketing discipline.
Yeah, I like that. Actually, that fits very much into how you named your company, which is a question I asked and somehow I missed it today. I'm just not with it today. So last question. Yeah, tell me about that now that we touched on it, and what you just said perfectly fits into why and how did you choose the name of your company?
So as an SEO professional, I've worked both for brands within the brand and agency side. And throughout my career, I noticed that, okay, SEOs, we provide recommendations, we provide strategy, but we also require other teams, individuals, departments to implement our recommendations. And that is fundamental. Without the implementation, we wouldn't be able to rank. We wouldn't be able to have great visibility in the SERPs. So I always saw that as a key aspect to SEO and not just something that's someone else's problem, right? Now, the reality is when you have SEO recommendations provided to different departments to implement, let's say the technical departments, right? Web developers, web development departments. Let's say we have a technical SEO audit for them to implement. If they are not familiar with SEO, if they do not understand SEO, they're a lot more likely to push back on SEO and not want to implement the recommendations that they essentially would prefer to work on something else other than SEO. And I think that is a huge mistake, I would say, that SEOs make, in that they think SEO is something that they can just give to developers, as an example, and it's now down to developers to do their part. I always saw it as SEO is something that can be affected, is a channel that can be affected by any and every department within the company. So if you have a website, you have different individuals, teams, departments working on and or for the website, they can impact the website's SEO performance. So it stands to reason that having a certain awareness of SEO is required in different departments, right? So developers need to understand SEO from a technical point of view. Content writers need to understand SEO from a content point of view, and et cetera, with all the different teams and departments within the business. So SEOs essentially have to evangelize SEO. And this is where the phrase democratizing SEO comes into place. It's spreading the awareness of SEO outside of the SEO department and not just leaving it to SEOs to fix as a siloed or isolated department. So every person within a business needs a certain appropriated awareness of SEO.
I would think now that you're saying it, and I'm thinking about like different businesses that I've worked with as a consultant or like in the marketing department. I'm thinking that should be something that's not just with SEO, but like you said, like every department working on different things. It has to, because it all ends up being one product, one thing that's presented. And it just has to work all together. Otherwise, you end up with some kind of I don't know, Frankenstein monster where everybody put their bit, but it just doesn't work together.
It doesn't align, and it creates more confusion for guess who? Google.
Yeah. Cool. Well, that's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for making the time. We'll include all the ways people can reach out to in the little write-up to the podcast. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's been a fantastic conversation. My pleasure.
Thank you for joining us in this episode of Smart Branding Podcast. Feel free to visit smartbranding.com for more information and reach out if you have any suggestions, questions, ideas, or just want to learn more about how a good domain name strategy can help you build a strong and successful brand. See you next time.